Located 395 kilometres west of Adelaide, Whyalla is the third most populated city in the state of South Australia. It is also the heart and soul of the mining and steel industries in the state and is fondly regarded as the Steel City. Today, Whyalla is at the heart and soul of Sportsman drag racing as the men and women of the Summer Racing Equipment Sportsman Series converge at Steel City Raceway for the penultimate round of the season.
Well, what a beautiful little venue we have come to here. This is Steel City Raceway in Whyalla, South Australia. As we've already touched on, it really is a regional hub for South Australia, and this promises to be a fantastic event. I'm joined in commentary today by Dave Carter. Dave, we've got a full complement of the Sportsman Series today.
Yeah, nothing I love more than burnouts out in the bush, Rusty, and these guys are going to be coming in thick and fast with some serious 8th mile drag racing. Looks like the council's gotten right behind it too. Let's head to the Deputy Mayor to hear his take on drag racing.
We've really put on a great showcase here. We've demonstrated what a great track it is. I believe it's probably one of the best in the state, or if not the best in the country. But look, when you come to Whyalla, you can see what we really have. We're at the foothills of the Flinders Ranges, magnificent Flinders Ranges. If you really got to come to Whyalla and really experience what we have to offer. It gives people the opportunity to see what a wonderful city we have, and it's just not an industrial town, but great opportunity to see what we're surrounded by. Beautiful coastline, we've got brilliant beaches, we've got magnificent fishing, salmon, crabs, you name it, we've got it.
We've totally rebuilt this place from ground up, so brand new track, walls, all done manually, and pretty much all funded from within the club as well. Council's helped us over the years. I believe they see the value of the club and the economic value that comes to Whyalla.
We're always willing to assist and help these people. I mean, that's what it's all about. We're a community and we're community minded, and we will assist any sporting body. We've demonstrated what a great event we put on, and I think the hospitality and the people and the organisers that put this together, you've got to take a hats off to them because they're absolutely real passionate about this sport.
In drag racers' eyes, is it proves that we can actually put up a national standard track to run around of the Summit Series, and it's just an accolade for all of our achievements, the hard work we put into the track here over the last 10 years. I guess from here, really, we just keep moving forward and just keep improving the place.
One of the things I really love is taking the Summit Racing Equipment Sportsman Series to the regional centres all around this great land of ours. And we're here in Whyalla, South Australia this weekend. We're going to kick things off with Superstock very, very shortly. Some of the biggest hitters indoor car racing we've got in this country are here this weekend. But let's have a look at the points before we do that. Steve Norman and Kim Fardell are leading the way. Jimmy Ioannidis with a little bit of work left to do. Daniel Camilleri and Tom Dimitropoulos rounding out the top 5. That's thanks to High Tech Oils. We're going to jump straight into the semi-final action here.
First matching on the semi-finals ladder, Luis Vinos just rounding out what sounded like a pretty strong burnout up against Jim Ioannidis in that serious-looking Commodore there. Before they launch, we're just going to have a look back at how they both got to the finals.
Yeah, Luis Vinos got around Robert Bergerman. What a run this was. Pulled the front wheels up a long, long way. You've got to remember we're racing 8th mile here this weekend, so it's essentially half-track racing from what we're used to. Have a look at the wheel stand. He knows how to get this thing hooked up off the start line, Luis Vinos. And let's have a look at the other side of the ladder. We've got Neil Davis taking on Jim Ioannidis. Unfortunately, Davis red lights, hands the win across to the Commodore, and the Commodore goes a 652 on the 614 index. On the other side of the ladder, we've got Steve Norman taking on Kim Fardella in the first round of racing, and Steve Norman takes it a 516 on the 537. Really had to dent that index to get through to the semi-finals.
The matching we just saw there, Steve Norman headed through to the semis for a bye run and will be through to the finals on his own. And just there, we've decided who's going to face him. Svinos coming off the line just that little bit early with the wheels up. And even though Ioannidis had a few issues with traction earlier on in the run, he is through to the finals to face off against Steve Norman.
A little bit of a godsend there for Jim Ioannidis because with that red light, that automatically hands the win back across to the Commodore. But I tell you what, Ioannidis spun the tyres really hard just off the start line. And with that tyre spin, that would have been all it took to really hand the win back across to Svinos. Car goes sub-index though for Svinos, so that's obviously a pretty quick car, Dave.
Yeah, as much as he's going on the trailer, he's run a 6.237 on the 635 index. Seriously quick car, and as much as he's going home, you've got to be stoked.
So we've got reigning national champion Steve Norman on the start line now. All he needs to do is accept the green light and move on through to the final round where he'll take on Jim Ioannidis. Time now to have a look at one of the toughest classes we have in the Summit Racing Equipment Sportsman Series, and that is modified. The points are shaping up this way. Matt Forbes and Simon Barlow tied on 300 points. Shane Wind, Corey Dyson and Kenny Stewart rounding out the top 5. The interesting thing for me there is no Matt Forbes here this weekend, Dave.
Yeah, only one of our point leaders has actually rocked up despite being on the points cap, and that's Simon Barlow that you've just seen finishing a smoky burn out there in preparation for his semi-final matching up against Bradley Hicks. Got there pretty easily as well. Simon Barlow getting a solo pass as our points leader, running through there and definitely not holding back, running a 4.749 on the 4.75 handicap.
Yeah, on the other side of the ladder, we saw Adam Mundy taking on Kenny Stewart. Kenny Stewart, the former national champion in this class. This is another good, close drag race, but when you look at it, Stewart takes it a 5.14 on the 4.78. Mundy, unfortunately, running a little bit off.
Next matching, Craig Baker up against Bruce McKendry in the far lane in that candy red looking thing. McKendry breaks out and hands the win to Baker there with a 5.487 on a 5.48 index. That is close.
How cool is that thing in McKendry, seriously? And the final matchup of the first round of racing was Neil Dyson taking on Bradley Hicks. Neil Dyson, one of the real hitters in this class, of course. Corey Dyson way up there in the points, and unfortunately a red light for the coupe hands the win back across to the dragster, and he will move on to the semi-finals where we find ourselves right now. Simon Barlow near lane, Bradley Hicks on the far side of the racetrack.
What an interesting dragster that is that Bradley Hicks is piloting. I mean, look at the intake on top of those individual throttles and interesting exhaust design. It's really quite a unique dragster, Russ.
Yeah, very, very unusual for sure. Looking at the dial-ins, Bradley Hicks dialing in with a 5.21, Simon Barlow a 4.74. Keep your eye on the close side of the racetrack. I'm not sure who gets there. It was Barlow. A 4.75 on the 4.74 takes it. A very, very slight breakout for Hicks by 0.06 of a second, and that hands the win back across to Simon Barlow.
Hicks also red lighting there, so decided on the start line, unfortunately doing himself out of a final chance.
Now this is a really, really good matchup because we've got two former national champions lining up against each other for a berth in the final round. Kenny Stewart lining up in the Fuchsmobile, the very, very nicely presented Fuchs car, taking on Craig Baker. Now both of these guys are from Victoria, so not a huge trip across to South Australia, but great to see that they've made it nonetheless, I should say.
Now, while both of these cars are blisteringly fast across the 8th mile, there is almost a second gap between the two. Kenny Stewart with a 4.83 dial-in up against Craig Baker, who's going to be leaving the line first, aiming for a 5.48. Now, both will be a little bit staggered off the start line, but it matters who crosses the finish line first, and Baker gets the advantage on the line and goes through with the win to the finals.
Time to go racing with certainly our loudest class here this weekend. It is Supercharged Outlaws, and this is how the points are shaking out. Adam Murray, he leading the way on 300. Dave Thornton not far behind. Doena Day as well up there in the mix, and Wayne Talbot chasing as well. It is a tough field, but we've got a tough field of Outlaws here this weekend.
I mean, this seems to be the absolute essence of drag racing. Big V8 with huge blowers, making crazy noises on exotic fuels. This is a class I love to watch, Rusty. The first matching in the semi-finals is going to be Shane Kramer up against Graham Sneal. But first, let's find out how the semi-finals came to be.
Yeah, first one was a wild, all-altered battle. Dave Thornton in the close lane, red lights away his chances, takes out the centre line, but keep your eye on Shane Kramer. All over the place, loose as a goose in the braking area when the chutes came out, but he still pulled it up A-OK. Mark Kuhn taking on Warren Leonard now. Kuhn takes the win on the 5.23 and the 5.08 dial-in.
Graham Schneal up against Darren Astle there. Astle rocketing towards the finish line, but unfortunately breaking out, handing the win to Schneal.
And our final pair of the first round of racing was that absolutely gorgeous Camaro of Peter Datsun taking on Doena Day. Unfortunately for Datsun, had a few problems, and as a result, Doena Day just accepts the green light. That's all she needs to do, and she moves through to the semi-finals.
Back to our first semi-final pairing now. Graham Shield on the line there up against Shane Kramer, who, as you pointed out, Russ, got a little bit loose through that top end. Interesting to see if that is repeated, or possibly if Kramer is a little bit hesitant, but does not seem to be. A serious light there, 0.067. But was that an early shoot pull?
Yeah, I think it was, and it was also a little bit of a pedal there. It looked like he might have even had a cylinder out for the altered. It was pretty clean in the end, takes a win of 452 on the 446 dial-in, and he moves through to the final, where he will take on one of these two racers, Warren Leonard, in that really, really cool front-engine dragster, or the more modern, I guess you could call it, rear-engine dragster of Dwayne Day.
Front-engine dragsters just absolutely flipped me out, Rusty. I love watching him. The amount of chassis flex that thing was getting as it came out of the burnout. Big tyre grow there, but it looks like, unfortunately, we won't get to see Warren Leonard run. A couple of pit crew out there, hands waving around, possibly a mechanical failure, being pushed back to the pits as Dwayne Day takes that light, ready to head through to the finals.
Yeah, just accepts the green. That's all she needs to do. Through to the final round. So she will take on Shane Kramer in what promises to be a fantastic matchup. Supercharged Outlaws killing it here in Whyalla. Top Sportsman is always one of our most closely contested classes, and it is certainly close. Jason Stairs leading the way, Darren Saliba really close, Stuart McBain, Jason Arbery, whole bunch of tough races all the way down to number 8, Philip Ifantidis. First matchup of the first round of racing, it is Darren Saliba in that absolutely cool Pontiac GTO. Top qualifier here again, 5th consecutive time for Darren Saliba, and he's taking on Stuart McBain in that fantastic looking Chevy Lumina on the far side of the racetrack. I just love that car, it's so cool.
Yeah, that Lumina's got to be one of my favourite cars in Sportsman. It's just such an interesting shape with an interesting colour scheme, and it goes fast as well. But first, let's see how the semi-finals came together. Jason Arbery having a little bit of trouble there keeping up with Russo, who goes through the line, bit of a skate at mid-track, but heads through to the semis.
Yeah, it was really, really out of shape for Russo. Got way over near the centre line, but he did pull it back into line and still takes a win. Brody Sontag, I should say, in that really tough one-tonner, taking on Stuart McBain. McBain takes it at 5.35 on the 5.25. A little bit of stuff coming off the race car for the one-tonner. I'm not sure what happened there. And Darren Saliba, our top qualifier for the 5th consecutive round of the Summit Racing Equipment Sportsman Series. That is quite an effort, right up there with what we saw from Matt Forbes last year as far as his consecutive win streak. Almost as impressive, but certainly a very, very tough racer in the form of Darren Saliba.
Yeah, Saliba now up against McBain, having actually broken out in his buy run, running a 4.67 on the 4.70 dial-in. Has not touched that dial-in, so it'll be interesting to see as he comes up quickly behind McBain. Yet another breakout. Unfortunate for Saliba, handing it to McBain, who was really a whole tenth behind his dial-in.
Yeah, he was, but he got absolutely slaughtered on the tree there, Darren Saliba. Gave up almost 2.5 tenths of a second, and you can't do that in a class as tough as Top Sportsman. Our second semi-final pair is a solo pass, a little bit of an oxymoron there, but Paul Russo will take it. He'll move through to the final round. He's obviously taking this chance to check his dial-in. Makes a big move at the finish line towards the centre line, but still takes it a 4.98 on the 4.95, sets him in very good stead for the final round. One of the biggest fields that we've got here this weekend in Whyalla is Super Sedan. The points are, well, pretty convincing for John Kapiris. Way out in front with a 60-point lead over Danny Bicella, Graham Cooper up there as well. Ennio Morocco, George Tipakidis, Joe Bresciano, Michael Jennings and Marco Tolomeo, the New South Welshman, rounding out the top 8.
Three-way tie there trying to get on the podium, so points are going to be pretty critical here at Whyalla Raceway with these Super Sedan cars really representing what it used to be like on the streets, you know, some serious looking cars opening and shutting doors, big cube V8s, but other than that, some great racing. Have
a look at the Super Slow-Mo, the burnout there. What a cool car. That's Steve Hunt in the big Falcon panel van. You don't see too many of those floating about these days, and I tell you what, you know why? Because they're so good. They all belong on the drag strip, that's what I'm saying. But this is what happened to him earlier on in the weekend. He's in the other lane, no problems whatsoever, but that car on the close side of the racetrack, broken axle, big problems, Dave.
Tony Muskelly here really demonstrating one of the huge dangers of these lock diff big tyre cars. As he came off the line, a bit of a lift up on the front wheels, but it seems to have sheared an axle or something else in the diff there, causing only a single driven wheel to exist. And before he could get off the power, Bit of a tank slap and into a spin. Capirus, however, had practically a textbook run, running a 6.276 on a 6.28 handicap there. He's really looking to nudge that down.
Thompson taking on Jennings now. Thompson takes it. A good close run. 5.87 on the 5.86 handicap. That was a really, really close race. Next up, we've got George Tipikides taking on Jacobs. Tipikides in the close lane and a really good race as well. 6.59 on the 6.40 dial-in beats a 6.87.
Steve Hunt in that crazy panel van there, up against Dylan Argent. Closely fought battle, but with Argent's red light there, he's handed over the win right on the start line, despite how quick he was in the top end.
Leon Davies taking on Fitzgibbon. Now, how cool is that humpy of Fitzgibbon? He takes it a 6.81 on the 6.49. It was really a non-race when Davies had problems halfway through his run.
Andrew Thompson up against John Capirus in the far lane. Looks to be closely contested, but again, a red light, this time from Thompson, handing the win to Capirus.
This is round 3 highlights we're looking at. George Tipikides taking on Fitzgibbon. Tipikides again out in front. He was pretty quick on the start line and good at the top end as well. He takes a win light and moves on to the semi-finals.
Steve Hunt, a well-deserved solo pass there. 6.601 on a 6.58 dial-in. Little bit of work there, but pretty close.
So we look at our semi-final matchups. It is John Capirus, the championship leader. He is already on 300 points. He can't gather any more points. That's a maximum you can take into the final round of the championship. So for him, this is all about blocking, stopping other guys from getting points. This is going to be a great matchup. Hunt takes the reaction time advantage. 0.40 on the tree. He's really going to push Capirus at the top end of the racetrack, but it is a breakout by the slightest of margins, only 1/100th of a second, and Hunt breaks out, hands the win back across to Capirus, and that is the pressure you have when you're racing a reigning national champion.
It's a real bittersweet way to lose a race, with Hunt going home because he actually went too quickly, but I mean, that's bracket racing. Tipikides rolling up to the line now, an absolutely menacing looking GTS Monaro. I mean, this thing is absolutely oozing aggression, Rust.
It really is an angry, angry looking car, isn't it? I love this thing of Tipikides, and he's a very, very tough racer as well. With the solo pass to move on to the final round, he's certainly going to test that dial-in. He's dialed in with a 6.40, so anything in the 6.40s is going to be good for him, and he gets it, a 6.44 with a 6. Great run for him, and that sets him in very good stead heading into the final round.
Tipikides is going to be facing up against John Capirus. Both of these cars capable of a 6.4 or a 6.3. It's going to be practically a neck-and-neck bracket battle, but after the break, stick around for some more 8th Mile action from Steel City Raceway.
Junior drags is like classes C, B, and A. A is like fastest bracket.
It's basically like a mini Top Fuel, but some of them don't have wings. One just has a wing.
Junior Dragster is a bracket for kids aged 8 to 16, and it's just for them to have a lot of fun and get them used to, like, if they want to get into bigger brackets. I started when I was 8 years old, and my parents were already involved, and my sister raced before me, so that's how we got involved.
I started when I was 8, and I started racing because my mum and my auntie started doing it, so I'm basically following their footsteps.
I started at 8 years old, and kids can start like any age, like 9, 10s, but I started at 8. I just like the speed on the car, but when you get faster and faster, it's more exciting. I think my first pass I ran was like a 15-second pass, but then on my second pass I ran like a 12.8. So then on my last pass, that's when I got my license, and that's when I ran a 12-something.
When I did my first one, I was excited and I was a bit nervous as well. But once I had finished, I wanted to continue because it was fun, and yeah, I've never done anything like it.
It was very slow, but it was a lot of fun. Like, as soon as I got in that car, I knew that I really wanted to. After that first run, I just got out and I said to Dad, I want to keep doing this. It's just so much fun. Once you do that first pass, it's just unbelievably fun. and then as you step up, it gets even better.
It was a little bit scary, but and then when I finished the run, I thought, well, that wasn't as bad as I thought. So yeah, it was pretty good the first run. Well, the best part about it is going fast.
There's so many great families out there that you get to meet, new people, new friends and everything.
The best part is like making friends. They support you if you win or lose.
The most exciting thing is going fast and having fun with your family. It's fun and you can get into it really easy, but it costs lots of money.
Junior Dragster, it really is all about learning racecraft. It's all about learning what drag racing is all about and having a little bit of fun at the same time. It's where the future stars of the sport really come through, and we've seen so many good races come out of Junior Dragster over the years. It really has proven to be such a very, very good training ground. Let's have a look at the championship points before we jump into the semi-final action. Josh Baker is leading the way, almost on the maximum points, 290, tied with Daniel Carranza. Kelly Donnelly in there as well. Then the siblings, Natalie and Bradley Bishop. Michael Naylor all the way from Western Australia, and guess what? We actually go racing with Michael Naylor in the next round from the semi-finals. But first up, we've got Natalie Bishop taking on Stephanie Davies.
Both junior drags rolling up to the line now, just really perfecting that racecraft, learning how to bump into stage and get through those semis as effectively as they can. But let's find out how they got there first. Tim Baker up against a sibling in Josh Baker. Looks like Tim Baker's gone a little bit too fast there, breaking out, handing the win to Josh Baker with a 10.484 on a 10.11 handicap.
Yeah, Josh, really tough little racer. Zach Harvey taking on Natalie Roach now. Natalie Roach on the far side of the racetrack. How's the weight on the start line? Zach Harvey is basically halfway down the racetrack before Roach even gets off the start line, and unfortunately a breakout there for Harvey hands the win to Roach. Kelly Donnelly now taking on Natalie Bishop, the New South Welsh lady. New South Welsh woman, I should say, over on the far side of the racetrack. Really good side-by-side race, and Bishop takes an 8.15 there. Very, very good pass, setting her up for the semi-finals.
Stephanie Davies leaving the line first there, up against Connor Ohms, chasing down as quickly as he can, but with Davies out in front, it's an easy trap to fall for, and Ohms unfortunately breaking out, sending Davies through to the finals.
Charlie Young now on the close side of the racetrack, taking on Naylor from WA. Young, unfortunately, red lights away her chances and will hand the win across to Naylor. He's really making that trip over from the West Count.
Tegan Roach in the near lane, leaving side by side with Michael Naylor. Must be pretty similar, both on the 8.10 handicap. And it's Naylor just getting through there by 1/100th of a second. Very close.
Stephanie Davies now on a solo pass. 12.64 is the elapsed time, and 12.30 is the dial-in, so a good run there, and she will move on to the next round of racing. Josh Baker on the close side of the racetrack taking on Natalie Bishop now. Double breakout here. This is such a close race. Bishop takes it by breaking out by the lesser amount, only 0.02 of a second. Really, really close, but I tell you what, these kids really turn on some good close racing.
Definitely some seriously fought competition here, and heading through to the semis now, we've got Bishop on the line up against Davies. A little bit lazy on the tree there from Davies, and Bishop much faster than 0.6 of a second quicker, in fact. And it's going to be decided possibly at the traps, but depends if there will be a breakout. Bishop through there, both running a little bit. Oh, actually, Davies pretty close to that dial-in time there, but unfortunately hanging around a little too long on the start line and handing away the win.
Michael Naylor in that really, really tough-looking dragster. Very, very sleek-looking car, this one. On a solo pass through to the final round. The dial-in for him is an 8.10. Let's see what he can pull up on the boards. One of the quicker cars that we've got in the field here this weekend. And it is an 8.14 with a 7. Very, very close to his dial-in. He's in very good form. Let's have a look at your points for Supergas. Colin Griffin, Matt Forbes, Daryl Stephen, all tied on 300 points. This championship is going to be wide open heading into the final round in Adelaide. Graham Spencer and Warren Bull both there ready to pounce if any of those other guys have troubles. But I tell you what, this is going to be a good one this weekend. Remember, we're running 8th mile, so 6:30 is the fixed index for this class. All the cars run on the same index. The basic rule is heads up and 6:30. So you want to run 6:30 at the other end of the racetrack. You don't want to go under it. If you go under it, You hand the win back across to the car in the other lane. Let's have a look at how we got to this point. We've got Frank Fontanelli in that gorgeous Pontiac on the close side of the racetrack, taking on Colin Griffin. Griffin takes this one, a 6.51 over Fontanelli's 6.59.
Johnny Yanko up against Graham Spencer here. Big wheel stand from Yanko. And looks as if he's nosed in front of Spencer there and come through with the win. Old Holden up on top of new.
That's a big scalp there. Spencer is a very, very tough racer in this class. Jeff Romeo now taking on Michael DeRose. 6.36 for Romeo, getting ever so close to that 6.30 fixed index. And that's where we find ourselves right now. Johnny Yanko taking on Jeff Romeo. I love that car. That is just absolute perfection in my eyes, that 27 Roadster.
Oh, I guess our taste changed. I was just about to say the same thing about Yanko's Monaro. I mean, that thing, absolutely glorious street car spec. Big wheels off the line and a .116 light up against the red light there. As much as that Roadster's out in front, Yanko will be the one heading through to the finals.
Man, that's almost a pink light, isn't it? 003. You feel bad telling him it's a red light because it's so close to perfect, but either way, Johnny Yanko takes the win there in that big Holden. I absolutely adore that 27 Roadster though. Shame to see it on the trailer, but that's the way it goes. It's close racing in Supergas.
Definitely. Another keen competitor here is Colin Griffin. Bit of a different shape there to what you'd normally see. I mean, we see these old school V8 chassis, but definitely plenty of grunt there. Bit of a cock off the line, wheels down, and straight through the traps there for what looks to be a very quick buy run. 6.332 on a 6.30 index. That is absolutely pushing it.
Time now for our two-wheeled brigade. It is modified bike. These are the points brought to you by High Tech Oil. Shane Walker leading the way on the maximum 300. Brian Finn doing the chasing as well. Wally Hoster up there in this points chase. Matthew Allen and Gavin Don't rounding out the top five. And we've got a very, very good semi-final matchup for you here. It is going to be Gordon Crawford on screen right now. He's going to be taking on Wally Hoster. But this is how we got to the semi-finals. It's been some tough racing, and we've got a huge field of bikes here this weekend.
Yeah, a lot on the line with a three-way tyre sitting in the ladder there for third, fourth and fifth position, with a couple of racers looking to make a name for themselves and really get up there and gain those points as the series ticks on. Heading into our early rounds, we've got Nicky Zakrzewski up against Brian Moore. Moore red-lit, handing the win over to Zakrzewski.
Yeah, it's one of the quickest Harleys you will find in this country, at least that runs in modified bike and comp bike. You've got Gordon Crawford on the close side of the racetrack, the factory Harley racer, I should say, and Crawford takes it. O'Berty, unfortunately, a 794 and the 764 not good enough this time around.
Greg Sparks chasing down Malcolm Price there. Sparks with a red light, getting a bit too eager to leave the line there and handing the win to Price.
Gavin Don't taking on Don Baird. Don Baird on the far side of the racetrack. Don't is trying to chase him down. It's really close at the top end, but Don't gets the win. Good run there. Very, very close at the finish line, but he moves on to the next round.
Ryan Finn leaving the line first up against Wally Hoster. Hoster chasing him down there and getting the win with a 6.45 on that 6.30 dialing. Tony
Keating taking on Mario Baker. How about Tony Keating on that high revving, screaming little motorcycle? Baker red lights, hands the win to Keating, an 8.29 on the 7.64. Usually wouldn't be good enough to get the win, but it gets it this time around.
Shane Walker sitting on the line there waiting for his light up against Derry McGregor. Walker coming through the win there. Very, very close. Both races quite close to the handicap.
Round two highlights now. Nicky Zakrzewski on the near side of the racetrack getting a little bit loose, and Wally Hoster takes the win. Zakrzewski, unfortunately, a breakout there for her.
Gordon Crawford in the near lane chasing down Malcolm. And Crawford getting the win there.
Gavin Don't on the close side of the racetrack taking on Tony Keating once again. That little motorcycle just struggling to get off the line. It sounds like it's a fairly small cube motorcycle. And unfortunately, though, the red light on the start line handing the win straight back across to Gavin Don't.
What a shame. I wanted to hear that two-stroke again. Anyway, Shane Walker winning on top of Rickard there. Beautiful run, 6.492 on a 6.20.
And that's how we find ourselves here in the semi-finals. We do have Gordon Crawford close side of the racetrack taking on Wally Hoster. The dial-in's very, very close here as well. Hoster with a 6.30, 6.35 on the boards for Gordon Crawford. The former Top Fuel motorcycle pilot out in front, and that experience shows through. A 6:48 on the 6:35 takes the win. Hoster running a little bit over there with that 6:54. Not good enough to get the job done this time right by. But Gordon Crawford, man oh man, he stepped off a Top Fuel bike around about 12 or 18 months ago now, and he has just come on in leaps and bounds in this Sportsman racing.
Gavin Doan up against Shane Walker this time round. Double red light there. Both races a little bit eager. But it seems that Doan getting it just by that slight margin of 5.986. So that's a breakout and a red light there, Russ.
Very, very lucky man. That is probably the easiest way to describe it. I love looking at these bikes in super slow motion, and we'll be seeing a lot more of them very, very shortly with the final round. Super Street, one of our entry-level classes in the Summit Racing Equipment Sportsman Series, but the race is no less fierce, let me tell you. Kylie Tanner is on top in the points, tied with Harry Harris, Paul Garbellini there as well, Robert Winterburn, Garth O'Hare, Chris Tatchell, Samuel Franz, and Anton Krajina rounding out the top 8.
First matching in the semi-finals here, we've got Rod Kerr up against Matthew Jarvis. Sure to be a mean meeting. These two cars do not mess around, both capable of low 7-second passes. Let's see how they got there through the semis. Lee Donaldson up against Harry Harris in the far lane there in the Commodore. Donaldson breaking out, handing the win to Harris.
Such a good close race, though. Bumper to bumper right at the finish line. That's what we like to see. Samuel Franz on the close side of the racetrack. Jarvis on the far side. Unfortunately, Franz red lights away the chances. Jarvis goes to 7.25 on the 7.15 dial in.
Mick Piscineri up against Rod Kerr in the far lane. Red light there from Piscineri and gives Kerr the win and heads through to the semis.
Good looking Tirana, that one as well. Speaking of good looking Tiranas, Robert Fiego in the solo pass. He was supposed to race somebody, but unfortunately couldn't front for this round of racing. Fiego goes a 7.47 on the 7.40 handicap. Another good solid run there. Kylie Tanner and Craig Stewart now.
Stewart leaving the line pretty quickly, chasing down Tanner there, and it looks like Stewart is through with a 7.923 on a 7.88.
That's a huge one. Points leader out early. That's not what you want to see if you're leading the points. Fiego red lights this time around, unfortunately. Hands a win back to Jarvis in that little blue Commodore Ute. Harry Harris now in the Commodore taking on Craig Stewart. Craig Stewart, is that a little Escort there? How cool is that on the drag strip?
Looks to be making a pretty serious noise as well. What a crazy little car.
Rod Kerr solo pass this time around, testing the dial in. That's what you want heading into the semi-finals. Eventually goes to 7.24 on the 7.26 dial in. So just a little breakout there. I reckon we'll probably see him adjust his dial in for the next round of racing, and I reckon we'll see that happen right about now. Semi-final time on track.
Yeah, it looks like Kerr's bumped his dial in down to a 7.24, and a red light from Jarvis there practically makes this a home run. Ooh, lucky Kerr's got that, because that is actually a breakout, a 7.191 on that 7.24. That little Tirana really's got some mumbo in it.
He just keeps going quicker. He drops his dial in a little bit, and then he goes under it again. He still manages to take the win. That's the good news for him. So he will move on to the final round, and he will take on Craig Stewart, who'll have a solo pass in that really, really cool Escort. I love this thing. Grainy spec.
Yeah, super cool, but also pretty quick. Having a 7.90 dial in. Taking the light, they're very conservative, so Craig Stewart's going to be facing up against Rod Kerr.
The Crew Cam's pit report, and I'm here with the modified bike finalists, Gavin Doan and Gordon Crawford. Guys, who's going to win?
Well, Gavin came up to me a few minutes ago and said, "This is deja vu." I said, "I love it when you speak French. You're so sexy, man." We faced each other at Portland in the final. I was lucky enough to take the win this time then, and I guess this time Gav's out to prove a point.
Yeah, so Gavin, you think you can take it this time?
He pulled a light on me last time, which was a bit sneaky for the old fella, but yeah, we'll see what happens. It's been a good weekend. The bike's running pretty consistent, so as long as the rider does what he's got to do, we'll see.
Don't go anywhere. We've got all the finals action coming up right after the break. Welcome back to Steel City Raceway here in South Australia. This is a fantastic little venue, and we are just about set for a start with our final rounds. We have got modified bike just about ready for a start here, and our final round combatants this time around will be Gordon Crawford, who's already walked home with a gold Christmas tree this year, and he will be taking on Gavin Don't.
Both some seriously quick bikes there. Gordon Crawford dialing in a 640, but Gavin Don't will be the one waiting on the line. 598 is the dial in. That is hauling across the 8th mile. Both of them rolling up into stage.
Right up on the limiter for Don't. Different sound on the other side of the racetrack for Crawford. Very even off the start line, really close at the finish line, and Gavin Don't takes it. A 600 on the 598 takes it over the 648 on the 640 for Gordon Crawford. Crawford had him at the start line. It was very, very close, only thousandths of a second in it, but Gavin Don't rode around the outside of him to take the win and the trophy.
You never know what's going to happen on a race weekend, and you know, guys like Gordon, they pull one out of their back pocket every now and then. So, no, really happy. It's been a fantastic weekend. The club's been brilliant. Our bracket marshal's been awesome. It's just been great. Really good.
A very happy winner, and why wouldn't he be happy? He is now on the maximum points heading into the final round of the championship. He's tied with Shane Walker and Brian Finn up there as well. Wally Hoster, Brian Moore, Gordon Crawford, Matthew Allen and Eagle Malice rounding out your top 8.
Next up, rolling out of the burnouts now, we have the final for Super Sedan. John Kapiris on the screen here, the faster car of the two with a 637 dial-in up against George Tipakidis in that mean Monaro. Only slightly behind there with a 644 dial-in. These guys are going to be leaving the line practically at the same time, which is going to make for some close racing runs.
Absolutely, the reigning national champion in the lane closest to you. He gets whole shot on the start line. He's given up a 100th or so on the start line. Can he drive around the outside of him to take it? He can. A 640 on the 637 beats a 649 on the 644. That is a good, close race. That is what Super Sedan is all about. And I tell you what, John Kapiris is looking very good for a back-to-back championship.
I'd like to thank Jimmy and his crew. Alex, who's helping me push the car as well. All my sponsors, they've helped me out a lot between a couple of Perth meetings, and it's been a big, big season for me.
So the points have definitely got to shake up this weekend. John Kapiris still on the maximum 300, but George Tipakidis up there as well. Danny Bucella, Graham Cooper, Ennio Morocco, Joe Bresciano, Stephen Hunt and Michael Jennings rounding out your 8 for High-Tech Oils.
Heading into the Supercars Outlaws now. Serious looking cars, big blown motors, one on the back of a rail, one on the front of an Alta. This is going to be an interesting matchup here between Doina Day in the rail and Shane Kramer in the Alta. That is a car that we've seen earlier on, Russ, coming through the traps, getting a little bit unsettled. Hopefully the rear suspension in Shane Kramer's car is a bit sorted out and we see a nice clean race in the final.
Yeah, I guess the good news for Shane Kramer is that all the action has happened after the finish line for him, so hopefully it's not going to affect his run here at all, but he's dialing in with a 451 this time around, doing a day on a 480, so the dragster will be leading first, leading by around about 0.3 of a second, almost one full light on the Christmas tree, but still this is going to be a great race between two very, very good drivers.
Oh, Kramer getting the light there, but possibly a pedal with the wheels up and an early shoot there out in front of Doina Day, but still, that is professionalism there. 4.531 on a 4.51 dial-in. Absolutely spectacular victory. Little bit shaky early on, but a well-deserved victory for Shane Kramer.
Oh my God, it's just amazing. I just can't believe it. Unbelievable. Didn't just come here expecting, just hoping to get some runs down without tyre shake, and it's just been a dream weekend the whole time. Just within a tenth of our times the whole time. Just can't believe it.
Shane Kramer, a very happy winner, and Adam Murray is still very happy because he's on the maximum points. Dave Thornton up there as well, Doina Day, Wayne Talbot, Shane Kramer rounding out your top 5. Big move in the points for the Alta driver this weekend.
Next up, our future stars, the junior dragster racers. In the final, Natalie Bishop, who we have seen in some finals a couple of rounds this year, up against Michael Naylor. Both running fairly similar times. Michael Naylor will be leaving first with an 8.10 dial-in, but an 8.06 from Natalie Bishop leaves her only 400ths behind. This is going to be a close race on the line. And as long as they both get off the line at a comparable time, it's all going to be in the top end. But it can really be decided at each end, Russ.
Both races looking for a big move in the points as well this weekend. How about the light from Michael Naylor? 003 on the tree. That's going to be hard to beat from here. It can't be beaten. Naylor takes it an 814 and an 810, beats an 804 breakout on the 806 handicap there for Bishop.
I'd like to thank the Donnellys and the Shirleys for all their help today. If it wasn't for them, I don't know where I probably wouldn't even got past first round, you know. But I'd like to thank all my family as well, and I would like to dedicate this trophy to a good friend of mine that passed away recently, Simon Leckius. He was one of the nicest blokes I ever know, and this is for him.
So here's how your Summit Racing Equipment Sportsman Series Junior Dragster points are shaking out, and we've got a lot of races at the top. Josh Baker, Natalie Bishop, Michael Naylor, Daniel Carranza, Kelly Donnelly, all within 20 points of each other. This championship is going to be so close.
Heading from junior dragster now up to the big boys. This is modified. Two rails on, heading to the line now to face off against each other. Simon Barlow, the quicker of the two, with a 4.74 dial-in up against Craig Baker. 5.48 the dial-in there in the far lane in that blue rail.
Going to be a good matchup this one. We've got a former national champion, the former Craig Baker. Very, very tough racer in his own right. And Simon Barlow is a long way up the points in that Reed's Furniture Transport car this weekend, looking to make a big move in the points as well. Dial in, as you touched on, 474 for Barlow, 548 for Baker. So Baker is going to be out in front by a considerable margin before Barlow even gets to leave the start line. That's the beauty of handicap racing. It doesn't matter how quick or how fast you are. Everyone's got the same chance, provided you can drive consistently and you know your car.
It's really decided at both ends of the track, Russ, and it seems like here Baker got the advantage with the better light there. It's whether or not either of them will break out, and it looks like neither of them have, but Barlow threw much closer to his dial-in there. A 477 on a 474 dial-in. That's about as close as it gets, and a well-deserved win in the modified category to Simon Barlow.
Been a great season so far. It's been exceptional actually. A lot of people to thank for that. We've got Reed's Transport. They came on board earlier this year and they're doing a great job supporting us. That's Mick and Phil. They'll be out soon with their new car. We've got Lawrence and Hanson Gawler, Just Muscle Cars. He's done a terrific job transporting their car around all Australia for me basically. My crew, they've been awesome when it comes to getting the job done. They're all onto it. And Infinity Signs, MV Automatics and Waltham Automotive. All of them great sponsors and happy to have them all on board. And another one. Thank you very much.
So with that, we look at the points, and it's really tightened up at the top of the tree. Matt Forbes and Simon Barlow both tied. Kenny Stewart up there as well. Craig Baker, Shane Wynn, Corey Dyson, Neil Dyson and Travis Leifting rounding out the top 8. There is a lot of national champions in that list. Let me tell you, that's going to be a tough championship.
Super Street now lining up, and two small sedans lining up against each other as well. It's a really interesting pairing here, Russ. The more traditional car in Rod Kerr in that really well-presented Tirana that's been going faster and faster each round, bumping that dial-in down from a 726 to a 724 and now a 722. Up against Cray Stewart, aiming to run a 790. Getting the light advantage there off the line by a whole tenth of a second. It's going to be hard to track down for Kerr.
Yeah, both races dead late on the line, but Stewart takes it. Cray Stewart is your victor. 796 on the 790 handicap. And Rod Kerr, unfortunately for him, a 724 on the 722. Not quite enough to get the job done this time by. Really close at the finish line, but the little escort takes it. So this is the way the points are shaking out for Super Street. Kylie Tanner and Harry Harris up there. Really, it's a two-horse race at this stage. Garbellini more than 100 points back. Robert Winterburn, Garth O'Hare. Way too much work to do for those guys. But Kylie Tanner and Harry Harris, they are the two that you need to watch heading into the final round of the championship.
Moving through now to Super Gas. Finishing his burnout there, Johnny Yanko up against Colin Griffin in that absolutely crazy-looking Celica. I mean, far from a stock-looking car, looks to be rolling some sort of big cube V8 on board. I mean, this is a serious class. Both cars aiming to run on that 630 index. This is a fixed index class, but both of them getting quite close to that in the earlier rounds.
Yeah, big block forward under the bonnet for Colin Griffin, in case you're wondering. 572 cubic inches. It's a big block forward in a Toyota Celica. Don't know last time that was done. Doesn't matter. It's a quick car. Very tough racer behind the wheel. Griffin gets the whole shot. 026 on the tree. I don't think he's going to be headed for there. and he's not. A 6.58, pretty comfortable win in the end on the 6.30 index. 7.09 for Yanko, not quite enough this time by. And that's a really, really good win for Colin Griffin, and that's really going to help his points chase. He needed to make up some ground this weekend, and he has certainly done that, taking home the trophy here in Whyalla.
I'd like to thank, first off, my crew today. My wife, she's come with me now twice now, and we've had a good win, so I'm really happy about that. I really got to congratulate the Steel City Drag Club. They put on a great facility here. It's fantastic. I'll be back, and I went for like 4 years and didn't win nothing. Now I've won 3 of these things in 4 months. I'm pretty happy.
Colin Griffin doing exactly what he needed to do to take points away from the guys that are trying to chase him down in this point score. He's on 300 points, as is Matt Forbes, Daryl Stephen, Grant Spencer could have made up some ground this weekend but lost early, and Warren Bull rounding out your top 5 on 240 points for High Tech Oils.
Straight into top sportsman now, and Paul Rosso doing a massive burnout in that big black shed. Up against Stuart McBain, a little bit more conservative there, just warming the tyres out of the water, gripping up just near the staging lights and getting ready to go.
This is going to be a really good one between two very, very different styles of car when you look at the body style. But as far as the chassis underneath those cars, very, very similar. This is what Top Sportsman is all about. It's going to be a great race, this one. 2 of the quickest cars we've got in this field. Dialing in with a 5.39 for Stuart McBain, 4.96 for Paul Russo. I know he's had a lot of work done on this car with Bob Sherry helping him out. Does a lot of the engine work on this car, so it's great to see him back on track and looking to make up some ground in the points here as well this weekend.
Yeah, there are some rails running a lot slower than that 4.96 of Paul Russo, so it's interesting to see a bodied car get down the track that quickly.
And there's nothing cooler than a Chevy, let's be honest. Oh, big American muscle, that's what it's about now. 014 on the tree. He's got this thing just about nailed if he can keep it clean and green, and he does. A 4.99 on the 4.96, beats a 5.47 on the 5.39 from McBain. That was a good old-fashioned drag race. He had to drive around the outside of McBain. It wasn't by much, but he got there in the end, and congratulations to Paul Russo making this trip across to Whyalla really count for that team.
We needed to make the final. We didn't need to win, but winning is such a bonus because last week we had no engine in the car. And I don't know what to say, but without my brothers, without Bob Sherry, we would never have got this car going. And this win today, it goes to my crew, not to me. I just want everyone to know that. And thanks to everyone else for Whyalla, great venue. Stuart McBain, great run, finally raced him in the final and beat him. And Jace, I'm coming after you still, mate. See ya, thank you very much.
Well, I think Paul Russo is certainly going to be smiling for a while, and why wouldn't it be? This is the closest championship of them all. 4 races on 300 points heading into the final round. Jason Stairs, Darren Saliba, Stuart McBain, Paul Russo, pretty much toss a coin. It could be any one of those guys. Whoever goes further in the final round of the championship will be your national champion.
Heading through to the final category of this meeting, and a hard-fought final it will be in Superstock. Steve Norman up against Jim Ioannidis in that crazy-looking Commodore. I mean, you could mistake that for a street car.
Yeah, big high-stepping Commodore, this one. It loves to pull the front wheels up. Bit of a contrast here as to how you can go about Superstock racing. You've got, as you said, predominantly a street-based car for Jim Ioannidis, obviously a very finely tuned street-based car. Then you've got the full chassis Pro Stock style car of Steve Norman on the other side of the racetrack. Full tube chassis, carbon fibre body, state-of-the-art as far as the technology goes in it. But when it comes down to it, it is index racing, so it's all about how fast you can go under your relevant class rules. And let me tell you, we've got 2 of the quick guys here right now.
Both of them running under indexes almost a second apart, and both of them look as if they're going to give it a touch-up. Running quite fast through the end there. A 5.214 smashing the 5.27 index, and Ioannidis under there by a 10th as well. Serious drag racing.
That's a killer race all over the shop. I love Superstock, and this is why you got 2 quick cars running under the rules, both finely tuned and side by side at the finish line. That is what Superstock is all about.
I'd really like to thank ANDRA and Summit for being on board for the last couple of seasons. It's extra special today because I've got all of my families here, and I think it's probably first time ever that I've actually had all of my family at a meeting. So, no, it's just been terrific. Big thanks to Reg, Ryan, Paul and my wife Lynn, who's crewed today. She actually remembered how to pack a parachute after about 15 years. And a big thank you to Steel City Drag Racing Club. I mean, without them, none of this would have happened, and it's just been absolutely phenomenal what they've achieved out here.
The tough championship points chasers just keep on coming. Steve Norman, Kim Fardella and Jim Iannides all on 300 points heading into the final round in Adelaide. It's going to be one of those guys that will be champion, barring any kind of misfortune. Daniel Camilleri in there with an outside shot as well. It's just been a fantastic event here at Whyalla, but on our next show, we will have the Adelaide Grand Final. It is the final of the ANDRA Drag Racing Series and also the Summit Racing Equipment Sportsman Series. It's happening on April 9th and 10th, so if you're in Adelaide, get on down because it is going to be a fantastic event.
A pile of trophies are being prepped and not a more diverse range of cars will you see at any other event in Australia. This is going to be hard fought and a fantastic way to end a great year's worth of racing.
Our champions will be crowned very, very shortly. Make sure you check in next time, but that's all we've got time for today. We'll see you next time from ANDRA Championship Drag Racing.